I'm Sean. This is my McLaren 720S, and it's got a bit of a problem. You may have experienced it, or maybe you're going to experience it. Back in April, I was driving for some hours, and then all of a sudden I lost all of my odd gears. So 1, 3, 5, 7. Then shut the car off for about 30, 45 minutes. Everything seemed to work fine. Plenty of gears. Driving for another 30, 45 minutes. And all of a sudden, I lose even gears. 2, 4, 6, and reverse. So, I thought, well, this could be a problem. I had the car in California. I wasn't really accessible. I didn't have any other cars to drive. And then everything just worked fine for the rest of the trip. I drove for a whole other week and a half, and everything was fine. Drove it to Las Vegas. I put over 1,000 miles on it. It was fine. Then fast forward to now October, and it happened again. I didn't have any problems that entire time. Then I had 3 drives in a row where it did the same thing, but it was even gears and reverse. So let's look into what this possibly could be, or what it probably could be. By the way, did you catch I'm at the new home of McMedics? It's in Gaffney, South Carolina, brick and mortar spot. You can send your car here. So this is the plug that might be of concern. Now this is on the salve block, which is solenoid actuator valve, I believe. And this is what's actually doing all the whole moving of changing gear sets. This plug is where it goes to the transmission and the transmission harness, TCU, all that stuff. There's other sensors that it connects into. There's some other plugs on the transmission. But if that is loose, you can lose your ability to shift. Now, if it's really loose, it'll just say, nope, can't put it in gear at all. But in this case, it's just one set. So it could be a little loose. We're gonna check it. It's just a twist lock. It would twist to the right. It's nice and firm. Try to turn it the other way. It's nice and firm. So that's not it. It is possible though. Now, the symptoms of this can occur in automatic or manual. It's not like you are driving in one particular motor and it does it, or you hit a bump and it doesn't. If you hit a bump and it might do it, that could be another indication that it's that twist connector. So since it's not that twist connector, we're gonna look at the salve block itself. So what we're gonna do is remove this entire thing. But to do that, we have to drain all of the transmission fluid first. So we're basically just gonna do a transmission service. So you're gonna wanna do a filter, you're gonna need all the fluid, we gotta drain all of it first, then we can pull that off. Now for draining the fluid, I've got another video for that. I'll poke that around some here up here, but the drain is right here, the fill is right here. You wanna do this one first, which will ventilate it so it doesn't glug when you take that one out. And then you gotta do the filter, which is right under there. This is the filter. You will need one of these. It's not uncommon to see small bits of metal. They will be relatively small. I don't really know a good size reference point, but they're small. They're not like dust, but it's not uncommon to see a bunch of those floating around in there. So when you do see that, don't freak out. That is pretty common. This one doesn't really have a whole lot of that. There's a few little specks, but not too many. So the next thing we're gonna do is keep our drain pan that is very large, and we're gonna keep that right under this area, because right here, you're going to get a lot of fluid coming out when you take this off. Now to get all of these bolts off, and some are hidden, I'll show you where they all are so you kind of know after I take it off. You're gonna want, they're all 5mm. You're gonna want the ball end, so this one's a little bit shorter. And then you're gonna need a stubby one. This one doesn't necessarily have to be ball end, but it helps. For stability, you can get in there in a few spots. And then the long one that also has the ball end. These 3, or at least 2 of these anyway. The quarter you can get in there a little bit easier than the 3/8, depending on the ratchet size. But there's one spot in there that you'll see you kind of have to go this way with it from pretty far back. So that's where this one's gonna be helpful. So definitely have one of these, and at the very least have a short one. You're gonna need that to get some of that too. So you're gonna need those. Show a little bit more after I get it out. So what I didn't mention before is these 2 plugs you want to take off, and that's going to make bolt access easier as well. Now, all the bolts are out. The ones in the front here are shorter, the ones in the back are longer. Just observe which ones are which. It'll all make sense. Now, to get this piece off, you're going to have to pry on it. And for that, we have a pry tool. Whichever one you want to use is fine. There's this flat spot right here, and that is really basically the only spot you can kind of go in there and do it. But sometimes they come off that easy, sometimes they don't. If you end up pushing on it really, really, really hard, don't be shocked. So now with this kind of popped off, you'll see this one actually came off pretty easily. And there is a gasket right there. We don't want to fool with anything in here. And these little pins, there's one there and one in the back, and those we're going to line back up. So make sure you don't damage those. And don't pry on the gasket itself, because that's bad. You can reuse this gasket, so don't worry about having another one. But we're going to look at this piece. So what we're looking at here is these little spots where it's kind of gunky. This really isn't too terribly bad. Sometimes it will actually look like an O-ring right there. Like this one, you saw how I just kind of moved it. This one's possibly the problem, but we're gonna get this all cleaned up. Do not move these back and forth. I know you're gonna want to, don't. When you gotta put this back in, everything's gotta line up. You'll kind of look in there and see there's slots for these to line up in, and you don't wanna mess with that. So don't move these as much as possible. You can rotate them if you need to clean up the backside, but don't move them this direction. It makes things much easier to put it back in. So as you can see, I've cleaned off a bunch of this and it's much better. And I went and spun these. You just grab these ends and just spin it. These I haven't gone by to clean up, but look at how bad this one is. Like, it's bad. It's really, really bad. So I'm hoping that that is the problem. This one was just really, this was the worst one for sure. But the other ones needed some cleaning as well. So I'm hoping that is the reason for this. So I've got this put back in. Mine was just a little bit off. So the flat spot that you'll kind of see in those from before, those should be pretty much straight. So if it won't go quite back in right, make sure all those are completely flat straight across. That'll help line that up to get that in. So it pops in. You've got the little set spots on that side and the other corner. Remember, it has to slide on top of those. You don't want to compress those. Make sure they're lined up. When you have those two pins lined up, it will just go right in. Put some screws in, tighten them just a little bit, and that will help pull the whole thing in. Put all of them in to get them just barely snug. Then we're going to go back and tighten all of these bolts. You can do it in a cross pattern. I've done it that way and just going all the way around to make sure you don't miss one. Either way, it's going to be 7 foot-pounds. That is very critical that you do 7 foot-pounds. So we're going to do 7 foot-pounds on all of these. Make sure you get all of them, including the tricky one that's in the top back there. Count them. I forgot to count them. Here's how many there are on the screen. Remember, we took out the filter as well to drain more of the fluid. So you want to put the filter back in after you torque this, unless you've already put the filter back in. And then we're going to put all of the fluid back in, and we should be good to go. I forgot to record an ending, but it did work. So make sure you like the video, throw a little comment on there if you got any questions. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Check out all the other videos of all the other stuff that I'm doing on all the maintenance and repairs and all that stuff. And I'll see you in another one.